Hey, friends, it's Dr. Sherri, and welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly Education Edition. Go ahead and grab your morning coffee, tea, or whatever gets you going, and join me for a real look at what's happening in education across the nation. The good stories that give us hope, the bad ones that make us sigh, and yes, the ugly truths we've got to face if we ever want things to change. Let's talk about what's really going on in our schools and why it all matters. Happy Monday and welcome back to the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly Education Edition. I am Dr. Sherri, and I am just wishing all of our teacher friends and administrators in the school building a wonderful Monday. I can't imagine I have been there. I remember the chaos and the craziness that comes on Monday following a weekend like Halloween and time change. Good luck. God be with you. Today's episode, let's go ahead and talk about it real quick. Let's overview what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how the systems are there to protect us, but how do they fail us? And what happens when there are too many cracks forming all at once? So go ahead, grab your favorite drink. Let's get settled in. Let's dig into the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, let's go ahead and get started with some good news out of Mississippi because we are all looking for that reminder that there are good things happening right now in education. Actually, there are great things. Let's be really clear. There are awesome teachers, there are amazing students, and there are some fantastic things that are happening in education. Starting with today's topic, which is according to a September 2025 AP Associated Press report via Mississippi Today. Mississippi schools have made some of the biggest academic gains in the country over the last decade, and they're still holding strong. They're not done yet. Mississippi's fourth graders ranked ninth in the nation in reading and 16th in math on the 2024 National Assessment of Educational Progress, the NAEP report, the nation's report card. Several districts, including DeSoto County, Rankin County, Harrison County, and Madison County, earned A ratings this year under the state's accountability system. Now, yeah, some schools saw a slight dip after that pandemic recovery, but the long-term trend, remember, that's what we look here. Education's not knee-jerk. We got to look at the long term. The long-term trend remains upward. And the state superintendent has said higher academic standards, targeted support for teachers, and a strong accountability system have improved student achievement in Mississippi over the long term. And that right there is the key. When expectations are clear and teachers are supported, growth will happen. I have seen this in my classroom over and over and over again when students know exactly what's expected. And take that one step further, when students are able to have a say in their goals and the expectations, they know then that you believe in them, and then they know that they believe in them, and they do it, and they rise to that challenge. I said, I have never seen a student who sees the bar and helps set that bar and never jumps that bar because they believe in that bar and they know that they can do it. And they might struggle at first, but of course, that's part of learning. When we push through, we build confidence, and that confidence then carries through into everything else that they do, whether it's in your classroom or if it's on the basketball court or it's wherever else they might be participating and it's in their future careers, whatever that looks like. Building confidence is not only about academic success. Building confidence is about their future success. And building confidence comes from high expectations, and high expectations are not pressure. They are permission to grow. They are the request and the demand and the requirement that students do grow. And that's why I have built the ATM method. And that is why I have seen thousands of students succeed under my ATM method, because it helps students with the framework of building that learn, trust, thrive process. So congratulations to Mississippi on a fantastic ranking continued growth, and most importantly, I don't know if you heard it, but I said it twice, strong accountability system. They are holding everybody in their education process accountable. Congratulations, Mississippi. Now for today's bad. We're going to head to Des Moines, Iowa and talk about a conversation and a topic that has been hitting the news like crazy. And no, we are not going to get political with this because, as I've said before, there is no room in education for politics. This conversation today is going to be about process, accountability, and safety. According to a K-12 Dive report from October 2025, all of this is public information. The Des Moines Public Schools is conducting an internal audit after their superintendent, Ian Roberts, was arrested by federal agents and accused of falsifying U.S. citizenship during his employment process. The district says that a full background check was completed when he was hired in 2023, but clearly something didn't work as intended. And that's the conversation that we need to have. How do we know our schools are safe if the systems meant to verify safety aren't consistent or transparent? This wasn't a small role. This wasn't a paraprofessional. This wasn't a janitor. And it doesn't matter whether the size of the role. The conversation that needs to be had here is somebody, especially somebody in his position, had a criminal background and was still allowed to be employed within the system. It's not about one person, okay? It's not about him. He played the system, he won. It's about the process that is clearly very broken. How often? These are the questions that I want to know. How often do schools rerun background checks? In my head, I always thought it was yearly. Apparently, that's wrong. Who's auditing these systems? Who is checking that the checks are done? And why are the standards for school employees so inconsistent compared to other licensed professions? Just think about it for a second. Doctors, nurses, CPAs, even cosmetologists all go through regular license renewals and verification checks. But for education, it's often just done once at hire. And to renew your license, specifically here in the state of South Dakota, you aren't required to have a background check. You're only required to have a background check upon employment, offer of employment. Now, you have to sign off on your moral statement saying that I've done no wrong and all that, but wrong is different to everybody. Everybody has a different moral code. So, why in education do we just put it to when you're hired? If doctors and nurses and everybody else, CPAs, cosmetologists, the people who cut my hair have a background check more often than I do to teach your kids. And think about this, safety doesn't start at the classroom door. It starts with the confidence in who's holding the keys. And that I think is really where education has gone wrong. Our system has lost trust from its shareholders. The parents aren't trusting them, the students aren't trusting them. And it's not because of the educators, it's because of the system that we are working in. The real bad here, guys, isn't the arrest, it's the gap that it revealed. It shows that a system that audits after the problem isn't protecting, it's reacting. And when it comes to our children, we can't afford to be reactive. In today's society, when mental health is at a peak problem, we cannot afford to be reactive. We have to be proactive in our actions, in our protection of our students, in our protection of our teachers. Proactive is safe. Reactive, that's scary. Let's go ahead and talk about the ugly now, because this one is very near and dear to my heart. It is kind of where my research lies. It is where I have started this whole thing, talking about teachers leaving and the fact that there's no one there to replace them. according to K-12 Dive and the American Association of Colleges for Teacher Education. The number of people pursuing education degrees has dropped dramatically over the past 2 decades. Bachelor's degrees in education have fallen from about 110,000 in 2003, 2004 to just over 90,000 in this 2022-23 school year. Master's degrees are not exempt from this. They have followed the same trend from 162,000 to 143,000. And overall enrollment in teacher prep programs, the people walking into that college thinking, hey, maybe I want to be a teacher, before even setting foot into a classroom as a teacher, that has dropped as well by more than 200,000 students over the past 10 years, excuse me. But guys, that's just one side of this perfect snowball storm. The other side is the number of people who are leaving. The National Education Association, NEA, found that in 2025, about 16% of teachers said they plan to leave the classroom. 16%. What is that? One in six. 1 in 6 teachers said they were ready to leave at the end of the school year. And now here's some good news. That is down. Last year, it was 22%. But we're still talking about 1 in 6 teachers wanting to walk away. And that's not the end of it. The Learning Policy Institute estimates there are more than 411,000, that's 6 digits, teaching positions nationwide that are either unfilled or that are filled by someone who's not fully certified. That right there is roughly 1 in every 8 classrooms that is operating without a fully qualified teacher. So when you combine fewer people entering the field with more people leaving it, what you get isn't a shortage. You get a storm. And when I worked on this in my doctoral dissertation, I referred to it as a mass exodus because that is what it is. People are leaving education hand over fist faster than they ever have before. But why? Well, we've got fewer teachers, which means there's a heavier workload, and heavier workload means a higher burnout, and higher burnout means less stability for students. When the foundation of this system started to crack, it hasn't collapsed all at once. We are slowly watching it crumble quietly, one day at a time, until finally it's going to get to the point where it can't hold the weight anymore, and we're not going to have teachers in that classroom. And guys, that's where we're going. Where we are right now is at a point where teachers are leaving not because they don't love their kids. Trust me, that's the hardest part of walking away. I remember the day that I left public school and I sat in that car and cried because the benefits didn't outweigh the harm. Being able to teach children, even though that's what I love, in a public school setting wasn't what I could handle physically, when it wasn't what my family could handle. And that is not just my story. That is the story of teachers everywhere. We can't put other students before our own. My kids, the ones that call me mom, aren't less important than the ones that call me Mrs. or doctor. But the problem is the system keeps asking for so much, and then it's not giving anything back. And maybe not anything, but enough. If you look at the increase in state funding for teachers in South Dakota this year, we're not even talking about meeting the cost of living increase. Salary increases don't follow inflation. And that's just the tip of it. Parents have stepped away from education. Parents have stepped away from parenting. We live in a society right now where so much of raising a child is about handing them a piece of technology and asking them to learn from that, and not about having those hard conversations. Who are you as a person? Well, how do you behave in public? Those conversations aren't happening at home, which means those conversations then get shifted to school. And it's not a teacher's job. It's not an administrator's job to educate your child on how to behave. We fully expect to have some social experience, social issues, right? Like They're children. They're still learning. They're still growing. And even in an adult society, there's still conflict. But here's the problem. And this isn't even attributed to the ugly that I'm talking about. I'm going off on a tangent. I apologize. But here's the problem. We see social emotional learning at the highest level of need right now that it ever has been. Kids don't know how to interact with each other. And then that all circles back to how they're behaving in school. And it all just trickles down. And what happens with that trickle down effect, that snowball effect, is that teachers are leaving over and over and over because they are burnt out. And burnout isn't weakness. Don't get me wrong. I am not faulting these teachers for walking away because I did it myself. Burnout isn't weakness. It is a warning sign. And unless we start to take it seriously and actually have honest conversations, like the ones I am doing with my education reform summits, if we don't have these honest conversations where everybody comes to the table and said, here's what's working, here's what's not, how do we fix it? We can fix it through better mentoring. We can fix it through implementing respect tactics and additional resources and adding community support. But the pipeline isn't going to fix itself. We have to work to add those resources. And if we don't, it's going to break. It is already breaking. It is leaking. The pipeline of teachers into the system is starting to slowly corrode. But don't worry, awareness is power, and that is what we are here for. With the good, the bad, and the ugly education edition, we are here to talk about these things every day, to bring real life, bring real light, real conversation. Let's not make education reform so taboo. This isn't a topic that you and I can sleep on. It has to begin today. And the more we talk, the more we can fix it. We can find the things that aren't working, and we can find the things that are, and we can change things out and up. Because if we want to protect the future of education, if we want everybody to have an equitable and accessible education, we have to start by protecting those people inside of it. That today, friends, is today's ugly. It's not hopeless, but it is human and it's heavy. So join me in just thinking about what education looks like 10 years from now if we continue to lose teachers at this alarming rate without anybody there to replace them. So there it is, the good, the bad, and the ugly for today. We have seen how expectations can lead to excellence, right? Great job, Mississippi. Way to lay that out. We've talked about how oversight gaps can shake trust. I'm right there with you. If you're questioning the people in the classroom with your students and if they are safe, even in our small school, we've had this conversation lately because of things in the last few years that have happened. Most importantly, maybe we've talked about how the teacher pipeline is straining under pressure and it is ready to break. Here is the takeaway that I want to leave you with. Systems don't fix themselves. We can't pretend that all of this is just going to work itself out because it hasn't and it won't. Systems, they don't fix themselves, people do. And I encourage you to take time to learn from the data. Don't ignore it. Don't pretend it's not there. It's uncomfortable. And one of my favorite things to tell my students is growth is uncomfortable. Think about when you're building your muscles in the gym. It doesn't come without a little pain. But we have to trust each other enough to ask the hard questions. And then we have to decide to thrive instead of survive. We have to create the kind of education that truly matters. Thank you for spending part of your day with me. Don't forget to check out the show notes and source links and watch the full video version of this on YouTube at Dr. Sherri Rochel. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me on Pandora. That is a new one I'm very excited about. I am on iHeartRadio. I'm everywhere. You get your streaming services, I think. If I'm not, let me know and I'll try and get on. I am Dr. Sherri, and until tomorrow, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep believing that change in education, that starts with us. That's our chat for today, friends. If something you heard made you think, smile, or maybe even shake your head a little, share this episode with someone who cares about kids in classrooms. You can find full show notes, source links, and ways to connect at educationthatmatters.net. And if you've got a story to share, something good, bad, or maybe a little ugly from your own school or community, I'd love to hear it. Send it to me at sherri.rochel@outlook.com, and it just might be featured in an upcoming episode. I'm Dr. Sherri, and this has been The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly Education Edition. Until next time, keep learning, keep trusting, and keep thriving.